All right, this is CFB season on the CFB season show. It's your boy Tyler. I go by CFB season, and we got a special guest today. Man, what's up, bro? How we living?
What's up, man? Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Hunter. I am from Pressbox After Dark. I'm one of the guys that runs our Twitter page on. I guess I said Twitter page on Twitter. That's really good. But yeah, we are Pressbox After Dark, a group of five friends that all met working together in college athletics. Appreciate you having me on, man. This is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna do some fall camp updates. But real quick, man, I remember I had tweeted out. I don't know if it was you or one of your buddies, but I had tweeted out during baseball season, Alex Box After Dark, and I don't know if it was you or whoever, but someone was like, "Man, you stole my." So it was something about the name. It was funny. It made me laugh.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because so when we were coming up with a name, and so we put the story on our website too. Is we were hosting Michigan State at Abilene Christians where we all worked, and we were working a baseball doubleheader, and we were in the press box for 6-7 hours maybe. It was a long day, and obviously it gets dark. We turn the lights on in the press box, and we were just shooting the breeze, talking sports, talking movies, whatever. And these two moms from Michigan State walked up to us. It was like maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night when we got out of there. And they were like, "Hey, like we heard every single thing y'all were saying." We were like, "Oh, that's not good." We were saying some pretty, bad stuff. We were making some jokes that probably shouldn't be said, out loud. And they were like, "We just want you to know y'all were hilarious." And that's how our little thing was born. So anytime it got dark, we turned on the lights and Press Box After Dark was on. And we were hilarious in there. And so now we get a chance to have a small podcast and get connected with people like you. It's been awesome, man. It's really been good to see, people on Twitter are somewhat nice, but yeah, it's all good. It's all been good.
Yeah, Twitter could be brutal. It could definitely be deadly and dungeonous at times. A really catchy name, Press Box After Dark, and cover college and football. So I'm glad to have you on and talk some ball. We're gonna jump into some fall camp updates. So we start with Mississippi State first.
Yeah, let's go there.
All right, Mississippi State. A lot of people, still not buying into the program from a outside perspective, I would say. I'm not too sure how the vibes are feeling within the program and within, but from the outside perspective, everyone's picking. I'm seeing a lot of people picking either 16 or 15th in the conference. Not too much high hopes or love, from for the direction and trajectory. But let's jump into Mississippi State. What's the vibes? Start maybe with offense and the
So
coach.
I, I'm glad that you when you reached out and you said like let's do Mississippi State because it's your team, and then we'll do another team and we'll get to South Carolina in a minute. But the vibes are exactly what you just said. They're high from like inside the program because they believe in themselves, obviously. Because when they go to media days, what do you want them to say? Like, yeah, we're going to be terrible. This is going to be horrible. Like, no, everybody's going to sit there and believe that they're going to be great. From the fans' perspective, me personally, I'm from Starkville, and so this team means everything to me. And I want to have hope. I want to believe right now, but I'm also in that camp of like you're saying, 15, 16 is kind of where I have them. I want to see it to believe it. I'm going to support this team, and I think there's pieces that could make them better. But again, it's right now. It's show me something, and then I'm going to fully buy in. But you want to start on the offense. I think the offense has a chance to be better than it was last year. The biggest thing that they needed last year was girth up front. They needed to get bigger, and they accomplished that in the portal on offensive line and defensive line. So they got bigger, they got better on the offensive line, which is massive. Blake Shapen was their starting quarterback. He transferred in from Baylor. People might remember him for when Dave Aranda and Baylor won the Big 12. He was actually the quarterback that won that for them because he came in relief. And so he's back after getting hurt after 4 games. So that's big for him. Having that veteran leadership is big. I really am worried though about him getting hurt again because he's been hurt, I think, 3 out of his 4 seasons in college football. That's a concern to me. The running back room, in my opinion, is the most slept on running back room in the country. They have Devon Booth, who was a Utah State transfer. I think he's the third leading rusher returning in the SEC this year. I think he was either sixth or ninth in the conference last year. Really good back that figured it out towards the end. So we got him back. Got a great transfer from South Alabama named Fluff Bothwell. all name team for sure. But he's going to be really good. They brought back Johnny Daniels, another JUCO guy, and then Xavier Gaten's a sophomore. They got 4 really, really good running backs. That's the strength of this team is going to be running the football, which is crazy to say because they didn't really run the ball well at all in the first half of the season last year, but they really have to establish a run. Wide receivers a question mark too because they lost, their main sources of production. They did bring back Jordan Mosley, veteran guy, but everybody else out there is a transfer, and the big name to look for is Brendan Thompson, the Oklahoma transfer. He was with Lebby at Oklahoma before Lebby came here, so it's good to have him back in Lebby's system. Speedy guy, he's going to be our replacement for Mario Craver, who's now at Texas A&M, who is electric as a true freshman. So the offense is going to be, I think, the strength of this team, but it's just going to depend on how much better they got from last year. So we'll see.
And I remember from SEC Media Days with Jeff Lebby, and I was really impressed with, like you said, everyone has high hopes at this point in the season. It's the talking season, like we said, and no one's going to say that they're going to be terrible. But I was really impressed by what he was saying from SEC Media Days. It's a young roster, I would say. Lots of 1 and 2 year guys, and he's still trying to build that culture. And, to really get that culture rolling, he's going to have to upset somebody. I don't know I think he's going to have to upset a team or two. If he could get to 2 conference wins, that would be really, really outstanding, I would say, especially after a winless campaign in his first season.
I think if he wins 1, I think the whole fan base will take a big just sigh of relief. It's like, okay, we won an SEC game again because we haven't won an SEC game since I think October of 23. We beat Arkansas on the road 7-3, which is just gross. So it's been a long time for us to win an SEC game. So that is, I think, the number one goal of this team for the year is don't have an embarrassment like when you lost to Toledo last year and then win an SEC game. If you lose the Arizona State game, that's going to sting. But, that's the defending Big 12 champ. So if you lose it, you lose it. That's a tough, non-con draw. So, but I think that is the biggest thing for fans in Starkville is just, I want to see us win an SEC game. It doesn't matter who it is. Obviously, you'd love for it to be the Egg Bowl. I got 2 games circled that I think that they could snipe somebody, and I'll lay them out right here if you want to talk about it. I got Tennessee early in the year. And the only reason I say that, Tennessee is very talented. Tennessee is much more talented than Mississippi State. I think Tennessee is going to have a good year, but the chaos of Nico leaving and then a new quarterback having to come in and learn that system quickly, I think catching Tennessee in September, right at the end of September, is massive for Mississippi State, and it's at home. It would be a stretch to beat them, but if you flip somebody, it could be them because it's early. Because if that game moves to November, I think it's Tennessee in a landslide. It's not even close. But that's in September, there's a chance. And then I think Missouri at the end of the year. Yeah, it's in Columbia. But I'm not really as high on Missouri as some people are because of the 3-headed monsters that were the teams outside the playoff last year. Well, I guess 4 because Missouri was kind of an outlier there of like South Carolina, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Missouri. One of those 4 have to take a step back, and I think it's more likely Missouri. And so I think you could maybe clip them there. But those are your 2 best chances at a win in the SEC. And I think they could maybe find it. But I think that's the biggest thing that would make fans be like, you know what, this Jeff Lebby guy is going to be all right. Let's keep him around for a little while because if you fire him after this year, it's the old question of who you're going to hire. Who wants to go be the guy after Lebby after they've gone 0-16 in the conference for the last 2 years if he goes 0-8 again? So I don't know.
And whenever I think of Mississippi State, I actually think of a respectable program. Mm-hmm. This 2-10 and winless in the conference, that is not traditionally expectations or at least outlooks or performances from a Mississippi State standpoint. I think of Dan Mullen era. I think of the Mike Leach, rest in peace era. Mm-hmm. And, Jeff Lebby got off to a rough start. And, you mentioned some teams you could snipe. I agree with Tennessee. I'm actually down on Tennessee. I think they actually fall off a cliff. I know the defense is going to be really, really talented and probably going to try to lead them in a lot of games. I think the QB play and just the continuity and the late window additions, everything's just not going to pan out. But I say that with caution because I do understand that Heupel's a offensive wizard and really good development of a quarterback. But I do agree. I think Tennessee early that could be a snipe. I do want to point two other games. You said Missouri on the road. I think
Yep.
Arkansas on the road. I think Arkansas on the road could be a snipe, and also the Egg Bowl, the rivalry game at the end of the year. You never know how those rivalry games could go, and it could be either way. I think those
And
are two other snipe
I
potentials.
think I like the Ole Miss one. You just never want to. I'm one of those fans that like playing a rivalry game is the best, but it's also the worst experience because you're sitting there and your next 365 days is going to be determined in 4 quarters. And so you're
Mhm.
always on edge. So I love talking Egg Bowl, but I also hate talking Egg Bowl because it's like, if we lose to them again, it's going to be rough. So I don't want to talk it at least this early in the year. The
Yeah,
Arkansas thing scares me because I like Taylor Green a lot. I like Taylor Green in that offense. I like Bobby Petrino calling plays for him. And our defense was atrocious against them last year. And so that one's concerning to me with it being in Fayetteville. I think that Arkansas finds a way to win that one at home. But, I mean, I could see a world where they win that game, especially let's say you do clip Tennessee in September. And then let's say, you compete against, your other SEC games leading up to Arkansas. I could see a world where they beat Arkansas. But, we'll see.
let's jump into some defensive fall camps updates, man. What you been hearing about the defense?
The biggest thing again, the same thing with the offense. They had to get bigger up front. They did that. They brought in a bunch of transfers, so their defensive line is actually going to look like an SEC defensive line. As far as injuries right now, there was a report yesterday that Kyle McClendon was a true freshman last year, had to play a lot of snaps, tore his ACL in the spring, and he is confirmed probably out for the year. They did leave it open that he could come back, but that's just a depth piece that you miss. And that sucks for Kai, and it sucks for him personally because, I mean, you don't want to see anybody get hurt. But the purpose of this offseason was for them to bring in more depth on the defensive line. And so that's why you did this. If something like this happened to one of your players that has a lot of experience. So the defensive line's new and improved. The weakest part of this defense is going to be the cornerbacks. They did not do a good job in the portal getting cornerbacks at all. They're bringing back Kelly Jones. He's got the body type to be a great corner, but he just hasn't put it together yet. And then on the other side of the ball, you'll see a combination of Diego Broomfield, who's a Memphis transfer. He was there last year and it was okay, but not great. And then it's Javen James, I think is his last name, or Williams. We have a Javen James and a Javen Williams. Too many Javens on this roster, but he's a transfer from Kennesaw State. That he's going to be fine. But again, playing at Kennesaw State, playing in the SEC, he's got to grow up and grow up quickly. That's the weakest part of this team. But if you get more help on the defensive line, if you get more help, from the linebackers, and we actually get pressure, then that takes pressure off those DBs having to cover for a while. I mean, I don't know how much Mississippi State you watched last year, but we only had 10 sacks as a team. That's horrible. So it's got to be better. And if that number jumps up, then obviously, you can maybe mask some, deficiencies at the cornerback position. The safeties are fine. The safeties are going to be great. Isaac Smith was the leading tackler in the SEC. He's back, only preseason all-conference player on the team. So you have somebody anchoring your defense that's going to be rock solid. I think their goal this year, though, is they brought in a couple safeties in the portal, is to get him closer to the line of scrimmage and see if he can be somebody that can actually get after the passer for him. So, the defense was, I think, 126th in total defense last year. If you can get in the 90s, this team wins at least 4 games. And I know what you're saying. Like, if somebody sit there like, oh, well, that's a horrible outlook. Like, well, 4 games, like, we've got to rebuild everything. We don't even have bricks. We have no foundation. We have nothing right now. So if you can find a way to either beat Arizona State, and then maybe you do lose 8 games in the SEC, but you're better. Maybe you lost on a couple last-second field goals, something like that. That's improvement. Or, you say you lose to Arizona State and you do win an SEC game, and those are your 4 wins. That's improvement. And I think if you get out of the 100s in defense and total defense, and you get up in the 90s, and the offense takes the small steps of improvement that it needs to, I think that's exactly where this team sits this year, and that's the outlook for the defense.
I completely agree with you, man. I mean, Isaac Smith, returning tackler from the SEC. You gotta win at least 1 game. I think I can't. You're gonna lose all momentum. I think even if you are still competitive, but you are young. 40-something% of the roster is made up of 1 and 2 year guys. man, you got to keep those guys too.
Yep.
Mississippi State got poached after a bad year. They got poached, lost the wide receiver, lost the quarterback, all that type of stuff. You got to hold on to some of these cats too, I think, in building the culture. And just real quick, man, before we move on to South Carolina, give me your top 3 players on the roster. I'm looking at Blake Shapen, Booth, and maybe Isaac Smith, but I'm just curious, who's your top 3 players on the roster?
Those are my top 3, but I'll give you a different 3 just, for clarity here and just to give you some more players to look out for if you do watch Mississippi State football this year, because I think those 3 are your top 3 dogs. Offensively, I mentioned him earlier, and I really think that this guy is going to be the replacement for Mario Craver, and it's Brennan Thompson, the wide receiver from Oklahoma. This guy's got elite speed. That's what they've been saying out of camp. That's what they were saying at SEC Media Days. And obviously anybody, I think he even said it, he said, I'm the fastest in the SEC. Any wide receiver is going to say that, right? But, if he's saying that, hopefully he's backing it up. And so I think that that's a guy to watch. Defensively, I'll give you a defensive tackle that has one of the weirdest and interesting stories of the offseason, Jamil Burroughs. He was a 5-star kid. He went to Alabama, and he's been out of football for a year. So he didn't even play college football at all last year. He got a last-second chance to play football at Mississippi State. Now he's back. Over 300-pound guy. We really need him to be big in the middle, and I think that that's something that he can do. And if he does that well, then that's going to go a long way into helping that defensive front. And then staying on the defensive side, a linebacker that's been in the program for a while, that's a real headhunter. I like him a lot, Zachariah Tillman. Obviously, it's kind of weird that we're highlighting 3 defensive guys in Isaac Smith, Burroughs, and Tillman for a defense that was so bad statistically last year. But if they're going to get better, they got to get production out of all 3 phases of the defense. And I think those 3 guys are guys that you can look for and say, hey, if they're going to get better, they're going to get in the 90s and the 80s in total defense, which is not that big of a jump, but it's an improvement of where they were. Those 3 guys have to deliver.
Appreciate all that. Appreciate that. Let's jump into South Carolina next. South Carolina.
Beamer ball. The new Beamer ball.
Man, they actually had a disappointing bowl loss to Illinois. Illinois is a respectable team. Lenore Sellers, but
oh, man, we lost season. All right, stay with me, Chad. I don't know how many people are on here. Again, my name's Hunter from Pressbox After Dark, joining CFP season here. I think he's having some technical issues, so I'll go ahead and start a little bit on South Carolina just to kind of stall until he can get back on. But when I look at this team, man, I don't see glaring issues, but I am a little bit concerned for this team because they had such a good year last year. They got screwed over in the LSU game, and I think that team goes 10-2 because if they don't get screwed over in the LSU game, they win it, and they're in the playoff. But, the number one thing that they have is that they did lose some pieces that are key, but they brought back the most important position and the most important player, and that is Lenore Sellers at quarterback. And I think a good quarterback can mask all the issues that you have for a whole team and bring you up. And so I think that Sellers being back is probably I don't know if he's the most important player coming back in the SEC, but he's up there. He's an easy top 5 that you can argue on that. And so it's going to be really, really big for them. I think it's funny. I watched Shane Beamer's press conference after the first practice, and he got like multiple questions about special teams and the holders, and I thought that was very on point for Beamer in South Carolina. But this is the team that I really do see them having another good year. I think I mentioned it when I was talking about teams that State can clip off. There he is. He's back. He's alive. We brought him back. There we go. Yeah. But I talked about teams that State could clip, and I put Missouri in that category because I think they're going to fall off a little bit. I don't think South Carolina is going to fall off as much as people think. Now, the schedule is a little daunting, and then Clemson has gotten so much better towards the end of the schedule. But, I mean, what are your thoughts right now on the Gamecocks, and what are your thoughts on Lenore Sellers, and how good can he be?
I'm actually higher than what people were expecting on South Carolina this year. Currently got them as the 6th best team in the conference, I want to say.
I like that.
I'm high on the talent. Now, the defense may take a slight step back, but I mean, you still got Dylan Stewart, and that secondary is going to be one of the best in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
If they could find some production and get some, great tackling and run fits in the box, they're going to, still be a really tough outing. The offense, I think, is going to take a step forward. Sellers, year two of the offense. You got Nick Harbor. You got some really, really good old line too. I'm high. Let me pull up their depth chart real quick and tell you some players that I'm really high on. But Sellers is getting a lot of hype in the off season, as he should. Some people put him as SEC media days. They had him number one. Man, I don't completely agree with all that now, but I do respect his outlook and his talent.
It's kind of crazy because I told you in the chat before we got on last year I ranked him 16th in SEC quarterbacks because he had like 8 career passes, and I was like, I know the tools are there, but I've just never seen it, and so I don't want to sit there and jump in and be like, this dude's going to be otherworldly, and then obviously he proves me wrong, and then on our website, on my blog page, First and Five, that's where we put all our college football stuff. I sent an apology letter to Lenore Sellers. Maybe he read it. I doubt he did. But this is a dude that the Cam Newton comp is a good one. I don't know if I want to go that far, but the body type, yes. The arm, yes. The decision-making, yes. Cam was otherworldly, so I don't know if Sellers can be that good in one season, but he's got everything you need, and I think that's the biggest thing that's saving me on saying South Carolina is going to take a massive step back is because they have the guy in the SEC. I mean, I have one quarterback ranked above him in my quarterback rankings, and that's Nussmeier at LSU. But, I mean, honestly, in my opinion, you can flip-flop those two. I think either one of those two guys could be your top quarterback in the SEC this year.
They're doing a good job with the weight room culture,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. Really liking the measurables. I remember last year they were just hitting cats, bro. I remember freaking Rocket Sanders was a monster.
Mm-hmm.
The whole line was, Kennard they lost, but they look big. They look big in like an SEC program, and they're doing a real job in the weight room. I'm really high on the left tackle, Josiah Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could be an all SEC type tackle. He got the body frame and the NFL measurables. See what he could do at that left tackle, and that's a really important position. And freaking Dylan Stewart, one of the best defensive edges in the whole country. They got a really good secondary. I'm really high on their secondary. I think they're going to be stingy to pass on. Like I said, if they get that run game, if they could stop the run, they're going to be serviceable on defense. Now, Rasul Fajan, the transfer from Utah State, I've seen the eligibility issues with him, or is he going to be okay?
So I checked it out before we hopped on. So I think he is actually cleared. So I read, I don't know, I was going to credit the website and I forgot what website it was, but they reported it's the 3rd, as of August 2nd, he got cleared by the NCAA with a last minute waiver. So he should be good, which is big for them because they're bringing him in to replace Rocket Sanders. I think the other back is Omar Attaway is the backup. Oh, Oscar Attaway. Sorry about that. But Attaway, I think he only had like 300 yards rushing last year. And so obviously a lot of those carries were going to Sanders, and rightfully so. Faison is incredible. If you ever get a chance to check out his highlights at Utah State, I know South Carolina fans have been watching him on repeat, which is kind of crazy. We're talking State and South Carolina, two teams that have former Utah State running backs as their running back one. Weird connection there. Faison's going to be big for this team because Sellers is going to need to use his legs. That's the strength of his game. They're going to let him run, but you can't let him get beat up too much because, he did go down with some injuries last year. Nothing major, but you don't want him to get hurt. Faison's going to get a lot of touches, and he's going to be really, really good. I feel like he's been talked about a little bit. I don't know how much we're talking about him, and I don't know how much we're talking about the South Carolina offense because obviously all attention is going to Sellers. Rightfully so. The pieces around him, they're really, really good. I like the pieces around him a lot. The more I looked into this, when you said, let's talk South Carolina, I was like, man, they're a lot better than I thought they were going to be.
Me too. I think the offense takes a jump forward. People are expecting the defense to take a slight step back, but like I said, man, if they get that box handle, I don't think it's going to be that big of a jump or a step back. Now, my bad. I have South Carolina at 8 in the conference.
Oh, you liar.
8th best team in the conference. I'm going back and forth with them and A&M.
See, A&M's a team too, because like, do they have the talent? Yes. Do they have the resources? Yes. Do they have the coach? Probably. I want to see it. I got to see a 10-2. I got to see an 11-1 until I can buy into this is our year. Gig 'em.
So they play each other, a rematch. South Carolina thumped them last season. It's going to be at Cal Field this year. As of those two teams, who do you think? Who you higher on, and who you looking at right there?
I'm higher on South Carolina. The thing about that game that's really rough for them, though, is that it is at the tail end of this stretch right here. This is a brutal stretch. LSU in Baton Rouge, Oklahoma at home in Columbia, Alabama in Columbia. They got to go to Oxford. Then they have a bye, and then they turn around and play at A&M. The bye is going to help them, but that 4-game stretch before A&M, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to come out of that 3-1 if you really want to make a playoff push. And of those teams right there, any one of those teams can beat the other. Like, I can see South Carolina beating all of them. I can see South Carolina losing all 4 of those games. That's just how this conference is right now. That's tough. If I had to pick a winner today, I'm picking South Carolina, and I'm only picking that is because when you go through stretches like that, if I have a guy that I know that is better than anybody else and Sellers, I'll put him up against anybody, right? That's what I'm thinking as a South Carolina fan if you are a South Carolina fan. So I like him to be in that pressure situation and lead them to a win over a Marcel Reed.
Could buy in on that statement. And, man, they got some – that's a brutal stretch. At Missouri early in the year, Clemson to close out the year.
Yeah. And then they open up with Virginia Tech too, which, I mean, that's a team that last year I was massively high on. I think I actually picked Virginia Tech to be the sleeper in the ACC, and boy, was I wrong. But that's a team that for a whole calendar year they heard about how they underperformed. You're catching them week 1, and they're bringing back a lot of guys last year that have heard that for a full calendar year about how they weren't good and how they were terrible. Now you have the South Carolina team that's getting praised a little bit about how Shane Beamer's really figured it out in Columbia. That's a sneaky week 1 game. That's going to be tough.
If things were to go south, what would you point out to? You think you'd point out maybe to the defense not be able to stop the run, or you think if things weren't to pan out, the schedule maybe? What do you think you would point to?
Interior of the defensive line.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily like – here's the thing. Dylan Stewart, you've already touched on it. I mean, I think he's the best pass rusher in the SEC. Maybe. Think so?
Him or that cat from Oklahoma?
Yes. Okay. I'll give you that too. So you know that opposing teams are going to have to account for that. He's taking up 2 guys. They're not going to leave anybody on the island with him. So that's got to free up somebody else on the other side of the ball. If the rest of the defensive line can pick up the slack, I think they'll be fine, because I think that they lost a little bit on the defensive front. That's going to hurt them, and they have to figure out how to grow up and grow up quickly. But I think that is where I see one weakness is that they don't have anything to complement Stewart up front. Second weakness too is how much is Sellers running and how much of a beating is he taking every week. If Faison is as good as I think Faison can be, and it takes the pressure off of Sellers in the running game, and I think really too, like I think back as a Mississippi State fan personally, like Dak Prescott, the year that they were ranked number 1 in the country, he was still very much, not a run first guy, but he ran a lot. Then you went into his senior year, they won 9 games, but they threw the ball a ton. He really improved as a passer. I want to see Sellers do that as well to take pressure off of taking those beatings of those design runs. The design runs still need to be there because it's a very vital part of the offense, but those are my 2 areas. Sellers' health and his running ability, maybe, taking a step back, and then the defensive line to complement Dylan Stewart.
Oh, man, I love that analysis. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. You got a fantasy draft coming up, so
hopefully I do well. I'm notorious in our group of 5 guys for being the absolute worst at fantasy football. You're talking to a guy that traded away Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow last year out of anger. So
Yeah.
I for some reason, Cincinnati cannot for the life of them win in the first 4 weeks. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. Get rid of both of them. I'm sick of both of them. And so then I traded those 2 away. I think I got Baker Mayfield for Joe Burrow straight up, and I got a bunch of just plug and play pieces that weren't great for Chase. Yeah, so I'm not a good fantasy guy, and I got put in charge of this draft tonight for us. So if we start losing, they're going to point all the fingers at me, but I'm pointing back at them. It's not my fault. I was not.
Y'all should have been there. Y'all should have been there. Tell them.
You should.
I don't know. I don't know if the draft order. I'm not. My co-host is drafting for me tonight for that league. I don't even know if the draft order has been posted or not. Where we at or anything like that. But just give me like top three guys maybe you like really want. Like,
okay, so I'll give you. Let me see. Let me think. I'm trying to go outside the SEC. I'm an SEC homer, so I mean, yeah, you grow up in the South, you're an SEC homer. So, quarterbacks. I want one of the 3. I want Nussmeier, I want Sellers, or I want Pavia. And the reason I want Pavia is because he's a lead. I think he either is or he's the second leading returning rusher in the SEC. He is that offense. So, you know, if I get Pavia, I would also like to get Eli Stowers at the tight end. I think he is such a good tight end. He's going to be in the NFL. So if you can get those 2, that'd be great. Outside the conference, I know Jeremiah Love. I saw that he's got hamstring issues right now, the Notre Dame running back. So I would still take him early because I really think that he's a Heisman favorite, and I think rightfully so. And if Notre Dame's going to be as good as they were last year, it's on the shoulders of him because Riley Leonard's not there. And then I think everybody – I know who's going 1-1 in that draft. I haven't seen where I'm at. So if he's there, I'm taking Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State because why the hell would you not? He's so good. But yeah, I would sit there and say that. And those are my 3 that I'm looking for. I did say, so we have a West Virginia fan, a State fan, and myself, a Texas fan, an Iowa fan, and a Texas Tech fan. That's our fandoms on the 5 guys that are on our site. So I said we're going to draft 1 player from each of those teams. Unfortunately, that means we have to draft somebody from Iowa's offense, which is going to be atrocious. So
the quarterback, maybe. The quarterback.
We're just going to take the tight end, whoever their tight end is, because Iowa produces 2 things, tight ends and offensive linemen. So we're going to go with that and just pray for the best when it comes to our Iowa pick. But we have to pick somebody for Iowa.
Yeah. Well, on that note, man, good luck tonight and have fun. And it's going to be a fun season. You know, can't wait, man.
Dude, this is awesome. Thanks for having me on. We got to get you on. We got to get you on one of our podcast episodes. I know that when we get probably week 1, if we can squeeze you in there, I want to throw you in our picks, our weekly picks. I'll let you be a guest appearance on our weekly picks because how we do it and how we structure it, it's really crazy. We do straight up, underdog, super dog. We do over unders, and then what we've been trying to talk about is the dumpster fire game of the week. We're going to try to find the ugliest game. Very sickos committees of us, but we're going to try to find the ugliest game, and you got to place a bet whatever you want on that. Whether it's you want to pick a winner, you want to go total, whatever you want to go. We're going to find that one, and we're going to try to make it fun this year. So if we can get you on for that, that'd be awesome. So
yeah, I'm gonna hit me up, bro. I'll easily jump on that, bro.
Love that. Well, hey, I appreciate you, man, and I'll let you sign off here for us.
All right, man. As always, follow and subscribe. Got the links posted right there. And I got it is at PressboxAD to find our boy right here on Twitter. So give a follow, keep up with the podcast and all that type of stuff. On that note, we're going to close out and man, good luck tonight.
Appreciate it, man. You too.